Escapism. It is something that all of us human beings need. For some, it will be doing sports, playing video games, going out partying, or a lot of other things. I remember that while being a kid, I used to read dozens of books and immerse myself into all of these fantastical worlds. The first time I experienced the death of one of my relatives, I got engrossed with playing Minecraft. It practically was my main dedication. Growing up, I was already invested in the world of anime, but when I turned 12 and throughout middle school and high school, I really became obsessed with the anime culture. It was more than a fascination for me, it literally became part of my lifestyle. But at the end of the day, it still just stays that. Escapism. You might put dozens of hours into a game, one of your favorite series or whatever, but reality still will remain the most important thing there is. You still will need to study or work a lot, and the social context will still exist, may it be the good or the bad things. This pressure and responsibility that our society puts on you just by being born into it will always be there, and that is something that we as individuals can't do much against. Life compared to all these forms of escapism just doesn't seem to be worth it. No, life is quite literally what you would call a shitty game. Or is it? The anime bottom tier character Tomozaki-kun aired in winter of 2021. The anime follows the journey of Tomozaki Fumiya, a Japanese teenager who also is the best TechFem player in Japan. He dedicates his everything to this game, and what he feels for this game is more than just love. TechFem in his eyes is a kamige, or for us using the English language, a godly game, and whenever he has the chance he starts practicing, learning and innovating his playstyle more and more. While TechFem is a god game, he sees life as a ksoge, a shitty game, one not worth playing. He was born with what he says are bottom tier stats, making this game called life way too unbalanced. He also acknowledged that people might tell him that he didn't try hard enough, but claims that it's the view of people that were born more privileged. And if I didn't know better, I would have partly agreed with him. Who wants to play an unbalanced game for so long if he was a delusional or a masochist? That is why he just has given up on the game called life. His problem? Well, he himself thinks that he doesn't have any, but that could not be further from the truth. Tomozaki is your typical loner otaku. He has no social presence in his class, lacks in terms of appearance and fashion sense, and literally has no friends. Even his little sister has a lot of disdain for him, seeing him for the loser that he is. And honestly, I can't even blame her. The dude never really tried and started blaming the way he was born and how the current society is constructed for all of his shortcomings. That is partly why Tomozaki decided to dedicate everything to TechFem and disregard everything that would happen in reality. This was his form of escapism. But if you read the title of the video, you should know it already. This anime does not let you escape. So the anime begins with Tomozaki playing TechFem against one of his classmates. His classmate, the handsome and popular Shuji Nakamura, lost the first game and directly started blaming the game and matchups. He also told Tomozaki that losing a game simply because of a matchup was one of the reasons why TechFem was such a shitty game. Yeah, he was trying to join his way out of taking the L. Tomozaki, as the god gamer that he is, started talking back, telling him that it's a gamer's biggest shame to blame the game and not your own skill. So this time, Tomozaki decided to swap characters with Shuji and still utterly destroyed him. Back at home, he randomly started playing against No Name, the number 2 player of Japan. While they were playing against each other, he saw the evolution of No Name's playstyle. Their defensive play got better with them being able to play even when they got struck by big combos. This might not seem like much, but being able to come back from a devastating combo in a game like Smash Bros. Or TechFem like they call it here, is far more difficult than what you might think, even more at the top level. Well, Tomozaki still defeats No Name, but this time something different happens. No Name wanted to meet Nanashi, the best player in the game. so they exchanged contact information and decided to meet. Tomozaki expected another dude like him that recognized what for god game that TechFam was. Another one that dedicated everything they had to it. Another person who rejected real life. But that could not be further from the truth. The person he met was Aoi Hinami. Aoi Hinami is the perfect opposite of Tomozaki. She's popular, being the center of the class, is also the #1 ranked student, the best at sports, and also a real beauty. From Tomozaki's perspective, this girl is the representation of the unbalanced nature of the shitty game that is life. So when they first met, I thought that Tomozaki would be the most upset between the two. But Hinami pulled the trigger first. She lashed out on him, expressing her disappointment. She had a lot of respect for Nanashi, a player that she never was able to beat, making her sit at second place for so long. Seeing that Nanashi was her classmate Tomozaki, a person who literally had zero presence in class and didn't even try to look decent for their first meeting, was quite upsetting. So she wanted to end their meeting there and then. But before ending it, Tomozaki fired back. He started talking about their different stats, how she has it easier being good looking, athletic and easy to talk to, how he does not have any of these parameters, how he is just a bottom tier character in the shitty game of life. He was not the problem, the game's balance was the problem. And the worst part about this quote-unquote game for Tomozaki was that he could never ever change characters. After having said all that, Hinami just points one thing out, and it is that it's a gamer's greatest shame to blame the game for the player's problems. He never ever tasted the life of the quote-unquote normies, and just gave up trying to improve or reflect on himself. This interaction showed the hypocrisy in Tomozaki's mentality. The first scene in the anime showed his disdain of people blaming a game for their losses, pretty much telling Shuji that he lost because of a skill issue. Shuji did not dedicate as much time as Tomozaki and never tried improving and innovating his playstyle for TechFam like he did. But so did Tomozaki for real life. So Hinami then took him with her home to start his self-improvement journey. First off, she started by shattering his vision of the oh so perfect girl that she was just by taking off her makeup. We ourselves don't really see the effectiveness of the makeup, but let's just say that Tomozaki thought that she was a relative of hers. That was how big the difference with and without the makeup was. And not gonna lie, this is far too accurate. Like, the difference between my little sister with and without makeup is sometimes really worrying. Hinami was not always this brilliant person that she is today. No, in grade school she even was less than the average kid. But that is when she decided to put in the effort in the game called life. She worked on her expression and posture, learned how to do makeup, started gaining communication skills and confidence. She put in so much effort in everything she did and was extremely proud of herself. But even with hours and hours of effort, she never was able to beat Nanashi on TechFam. She thought that he was a person who would just put in far more effort than her, a person that undoubtedly would be as or better than her in what they put their mind to. But seeing that Nanashi was this, frankly, lower than low human being that didn't even try to better his life, hurt her greatly. If she, with all her efforts, never was able to beat such a worthless jerk, won't this also make her worthless? These were the thoughts that ran through her mind that day, and it infuriated her. So she decided to pick this loser up and make him play what she called the ultimate god game, life. Tomozaki, on the other hand, still had his doubts with everything she just said, but one thing was for certain. Hinami was no name, the only player he respected, and he could see the amount of effort that she put into TechFam, how she improved and innovated her playstyle to one day be able to beat him. So he just asked how god tier this so-called game of life was for her. Would she just have told him that it was ranked #1, Tomozaki would just have taken it as her disregarding and looking down on all these other games, something he could never get behind. But that she did not. She tied it on first place with TechFam. After that, he finally understood something. He always put in huge effort and dedication into TechFam, thinking that he never needed anyone's affirmation. He thought that others would just disregard all of that, because that would not be an achievement that could be regarded highly in real life. But with Hinami tying real life and TechFam, it was like she acknowledged all his effort put into that game. This also sparked his interest into this so-called god game that is life. So he decided to trust Hinami. They meet up the next day at school to formulate all of the goals that Tomozaki has to reach, with the ultimate goal for Tomozaki being to be satisfied with real life as much as Hinami's. But I worry more about the last sub-goal that Hinami gave Tomozaki, which is getting a girlfriend. From then on, we follow their daily lives and the quests that Hinami puts Tomozaki on to make it so he levels up in life. Well, I'm sure that a lot of us have seen so many of these self-improvement animes, but never has one of them made me think and acknowledge so many of the points that they brought up in the anime. Most of the time I see the problems of some of the characters in this series, I'm quick to push it on the Japanese context and how their social construct is put together. And that is mostly due to the constant clichés that we are fed with all this manga and anime. Like the calling people of the opposite sex by their first name or nickname cliché really feels weird to me, and it gets worse if the characters have been friends for a decent amount of time. This anime didn't take that approach. Here people who became friendly with each other do not take like 40 episodes before calling each other by their first name or nickname, and I think that it fits the more modern world that we reside in. It will just feel weird to me that these teenagers that have access to the internet and so many other cultures would still have this social norm ingrained into them. But alas, I do not really know anything about the Japanese youth of now, so just take it as my opinion. What really took me by surprise when watching this anime were the lessons given in it. An example would be the construction of a conversation. In the second episode, Hinami gave Tomozaki the task of talking to 3 different girls in that same day. Yeah, she directly started at the highest possible difficulty for him. He did what he could, but with his poor communication skills, didn't really go that far. But it still was a valuable experience, and with his observation was able to deduce the roles of different people in a conversation. Mimimi, the blue-haired energetic girl who I hope to God doesn't inherit the blue-haired waifu curse, is one of the people that starts conversations, bringing new topics to engage with peers. We then have people like Hinami that expand the conversation, prolonging or making it more interesting. And then comes the rest of the group who also help with the conversation, but they most likely do not bring in new topics themselves. These are things I genuinely never thought about, but just analyzing my closest friend group made me acknowledge that it works like that in real life too. Another important lesson that the anime gives us is the importance of appearances. Posture, expression, fashion, all these things matter a lot in our social context. And it could not be truer. Most of the time, people will never be attracted to a person that seems like he doesn't take care of themselves or looks unapproachable. Just by working on these things, people will see you as a brighter and more approachable person, making it easier to connect with you. And for my fellow men out there that feel like their looks are at the rock bottom, trust me, if you groom yourself consistently, have good hygiene, and a good haircut, you will already see great results. Also, doing sports will help greatly. Going to the gym, running, dancing, it doesn't really matter, just get some movement in your life. Slowly but surely, weeks pass and Tomozaki begins to change. He gets a little more confident and starts talking more and more with people that are part of the popular group. He also got a hold of one of his biggest weapons, being able to say what is on his mind. I can say without a doubt that not a lot of people can just say what they want when socializing. I myself am someone that really did not have any problems socializing when going through middle and high school. I never really had difficulties talking with new people and was pretty well known in our school. When talking with my close friends, I'm sure that I never put in any filters to my thoughts and just splurge everything that comes into my mind without any care. But that does change when I meet with people that I am less comfortable with. Most of the time I just shut up and listen to them, and I try my best to not make them feel uncomfortable when talking. Sometimes you just don't want to mess up the conversation, so you just try to say whatever would suit the other person. That is why I and Hinami acknowledge Tomozaki's honesty. These lessons that Hinami gave Tomozaki weren't really something I needed for myself, but I guarantee that a lot of people out there need them. A problem that kept rising during and post-COVID is the huge growth of loneliness. If I look at a male perspective, never ever has there been such a gigantic level in male loneliness. That is why manospheres like the Red Pill community have been able to grow so big these past years. They prey onto these young people that have lost their ways in life. That is also why OnlyFans grew so big. I'm not dissing or disrespecting any of the models, by the way. They chose this path of life and all I can do is wish the best upon them. But you also have to acknowledge that the male loneliness issue is also one of the main reasons that OnlyFans is as big as it is today. I took male loneliness as an example, but every gender, race, or whatever has some people that struggle with the social construct, and that's why the messages in this anime were so important in my eyes. Just try your best. Put in the effort. It is never easy, and frankly, without a person to show you the first steps, it would almost feel impossible to start a self-improvement journey. But that is also why I love the medium of anime and manga. All these worlds, stories, games that we used to escape to, they all had these valuable lessons that stayed for life. Some of them got us motivated to better our physique, others made us want to get smarter, some of them made us cherish our bonds even more. These games, animes, mangas, they are more than just that, they are an inspiration. Just look at Tomozaki. After some weeks or months, he was able to hold a normal conversation with other people and really likes it too. When Erika, the girl mean girl of the anime, was trashing Shuji who decided to put in the effort to beat Tomozaki at Tag Fam, Tomozaki legitimately started unloading at her. Him telling her that he hates people that shit on other people's efforts without having put any effort into it, or trying to play the game themselves, was also a show of how he grew away from the sad, jealous loser that he gave up on life and became a better person, leaving behind his toxic mentality. It is genuinely nice to see him grow week by week and integrating himself into his class group, getting a better hang in life. But you know, I said that this anime doesn't let you escape. So what about the people like me who never really had a problem with integrating themselves and doing well at life? Well, they also have their fair share of problems. Prime example 1, Mimimi. Minami Nanami, or Mimimi for friends, is the Genki over-energetic girl in class. But she also is the forever second place. She is complex by the fact that Hinami always is the only person that does better than her. And when she brought up the curse of second place, I could only feel bad for her. Everyone remembers George Washington, but ask a person who the second president of the United States was, and most people will have a hard time coming up with John Adams. The tallest mountain of the world is Mount Everest. That's something even little kids know. But I bet that the great majority of people would know the second tallest, K2. I can say it confidently because I also fall in that category. In F1, Max Verstappen has been dominating the competition in a way never seen before, but his teammate, Sergio Perez, who almost always is second place, will never ever be able to get the same shine and recognition that Max gets. I think that you get my point. Mimimi wants to change exactly because she always is the number 2, for the recognition and acknowledgements of others. And I understand her completely. Imagine always putting effort into something and being at the top of your craft, just to get totally overshadowed by the only other person better than you. And her obsession with beating Hinami wasn't born recently. It's something that she always had since playing against her basket team in middle school. But the great thing about Mimimi is that she still did not give up at the time. When the student council president election comes up, she sees it as a way to challenge and try to beat Hinami. Tomozaki is also interested in it, not only because it was a quest that Hinami gave him, but because he really wanted to take on this god-tier character that is Hinami in the game of life. But sadly, not all efforts bear fruits. That is the sad reality of life that the anime acknowledged. After losing the elections, Mimimi started putting in more effort than ever into her track and field practice. She was the first to morning practice and ended together with Hinami after school. She also started practicing at home, studied more, etc. This came at the cost of her own health. But all her efforts were in vain as Hinami still was better than her. So she decided to give up. Later she opened up to Tomozaki and Tama, her best friend, about how she felt about Hinami. She really loves Hinami, she does, but she just couldn't stop being envious of her first place and thinking bad things about her. That feeling of inferiority and envy made her hate herself even more, because Hinami did nothing wrong. So that is why she decided to quit field and track. But at the end of the day, thanks to some words of Tama, she was able to get herself back up again and go back to being the effort-putting cheery Mimimi that she always was. It's exactly lessons like these that are also quite valuable for almost everyone on Earth. The anime showed us that it is okay to want to give up and start giving up, but it would suck more if you gave up midway through the whole ordeal after having put in so much effort in whatever you did. And with just the right words or mindset, who can get backup once again. It may be friends, family, influencers, or in my case, the silly Japanese cartoons and comics. I think that series like Jakukara Tomozaki really are needed for a lot of the people who try to escape real life. It acknowledges both the escapism and reality, but also tells us that we shouldn't neglect or reject any of the two. They both have their importance in our life, and both deserve our dedication. Completely escaping a situation will never result in the situation getting resolved, so you will always need to put in the efforts. But escapism is also something that will help you cope and come back even stronger than before. You just have to make sure to not overdo it and use it wisely. Reality might suck at the time, but there are some things in reality that can shine as bright as what some forms of escapism do. Just think of really strong friendships. It will take a lot more effort, that's a given, but it is worth it. I think that I said enough about the anime, so I will let you watch it for yourself. Oh, and by the way, the second season aired this winter of 2024, so you'll be able to enjoy the story a tad bit more. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure to watch the other videos. I make gaming and anime analysis, and I recommend my last video about Annelies. It's a great game. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, it is greatly appreciated. This was Artigana, until next time.